It's Monday morning, and you know what that means. For at least a few people, it's time to hang out with your boys Dave and Matt and talk about comics. Before we get started on this week's topic, I do want to just make mention real quick. In last week's episode, in our Glory of X episode, I mentioned that after this Invincible episode comes out, we were going to do a part 2 of that X-Men episode. That's not going to come out next week. We're going to have something different next week. You'll have to just come back and find out what that's going to be. But we're going to push the second part of that X-Men conversation back by at least another week. So I just wanted to let everybody know. But one thing we haven't done yet in April was do our monthly Invincible talk. So we read volumes 7 and 8 this month, and that is the topic at hand today. I think typically, Matt, these episodes get pretty long. We have a hard time reining ourselves in when we talk about Invincible. I expect today to be no different. Any general thoughts you wanna throw out about this before we get started? And I have a lot of thoughts about this one, so I can kind of lead us through if you want. But
yeah, no, I appreciate you leading us through. I think there's just I feel like there always is a lot, but I feel like there's a lot that went down in these two particular trades, especially with the relationships, some of the relationships that are going to move throughout the entire rest of the series. We're starting to see some bonds and some people come together, some really interesting characters, like Shapeshift. I completely forgot about that guy. Shapesmith, sorry.
Come on, man.
I typoed it wrong here. But art-wise, we're in full Otley mode now. There were still some issues. Like when I got the first issue, I think it was 31 or 31. I was like, man, this is really wordy. But then it got to the action and it just flowed. And I feel like the first two issues had a lot of dialogue, and then the rest of it just started flowing. And I just could not stop reading it. I read 3 or 4 issues a day, which, if you know me, is not something I normally do with a comic. So once you get sucked back in, you're just in.
For sure. So, as a reminder, maybe some people that listen to the podcast that don't read Invincible, where we left off last month, Mark reunited with Nolan, his dad, finds out he has a half-brother, brings the brother back to Earth, leaves him with his mom. Debbie's just stuck with this kid, doesn't know what to do with him. Eve in Africa, trying to better the world. Mark still with Amber. Things are going well. Amber knows that Mark is invincible. William still not out of the closet. He is still technically straight, even though we know that William is gay. If you watch the Invincible show, I honestly don't remember it taking this long for William to come out in the comic. But we're what, 40, almost 40 issues in?
Yeah, by the end of this, we're 47 or 41 issues in. 41 issues in.
And then Mark's working with the U.S. government. Cecil kind of calls the shots a little bit. He's always in Mark's ear, telling him where to go, what to do. Robot is doing some things. He's got some schemes he's working on in the end of the volume 6. And we also got the creation of Mark's arch nemesis, Angstrom Levy. So that's where we left off after the March episode. And I do, in the start of volume 7, you get a lot of Debbie and Oliver, which I think Debbie ends up naming him Oliver. He doesn't name himself, which is custom for his people.
I was going to say, they broke the custom. She definitely names him.
I don't think he was really talking yet that much. To name himself, because the Viltrumite DNA slowed the aging process considerably. So
named Oliver after her father. I didn't catch that the first time.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. I don't think I really took the time the first 2 or 3 times I read Invincible to let it sink in really how much of a big deal it is that Debbie is raising the son of her estranged husband who tried to kill her
Yeah.
son and abandoned her and said a lot of awful things about her, said everything was a lie, and then just left the planet. That's like a really big, heavy amount of trauma for a person. And then and maybe, part of it is part of her healing process. Maybe it's cathartic. I don't know. But dude, that's insane that she takes that on.
One of those things would be enough to break someone.
Yeah.
Like you beat up my son, you sired, a child with someone else. Like that can break. That's broken people
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
That's just a testament to her and like her character. And yeah, she's just
Yeah.
a better person.
The stuff with the tutor is really cool.
Yeah.
We're not quite to the part where I dislike Oliver because he's still just
Okay.
a baby. There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff I don't like about Oliver once he gets a little older. But we'll get to that, and I think in the next couple of that'll be a topic of conversation in May. But
Yeah.
right now, I think it's cool how fast he's learning, and the tutor is just like, in a few weeks looks like he's 3 or 4 years old. And he's speaking
Yeah.
in complete sentences. He's very advanced. He's doing math problems. He's only been alive for like a few months or whatever.
Dave
Weeks.
likes Oliver right now, but trust me, he doesn't want to be in a movie theater with him. I can tell you that.
No, I sure don't. And when he gets a little bit older, he's insufferable.
Even worse.
Insufferable. The late Invincible Oliver is good.
Yeah.
The mid Invincible Oliver kind of sucks.
I remember him kind of sucking too. I don't remember exactly why, but I was like, this dude kind of sucks.
Don't worry, it won't take long to figure it out once it starts to come back. I think another one of the big reveals that happens early on in Volume 7 too is you finally see Robot. You see his true human form. He's not just a robot. It's actually like this little disgusting creature that lives in a water bath, basically, like in a tube. Which, if you watch the Invincible show, if you watch the cartoon, like this already. It took them forever to get to this point in the comic. Got to it quick in the show.
I did not remember any of that. I remember Robot like having like a human form at some point. I completely forgot about the whole glass, the little guy in glass thing. Krang Jr. I completely forgot about all that.
If only you would watch the show to completion.
Oh, one day.
If only.
One day.
Probably not.
Yeah. Can we like I'm assuming we're going to talk about Mark kind of like in Africa and Eve and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. We're getting to that.
Okay. You're
good. Isn't that in Volume 8?
No, that was like the first issue of this.
Are you sure about that?
I'm 100% sure. Because the first they have the ending of last thing. Then Eve reaches out to Mark to talk about like what goes on, and Eve invites Amber and Mark to go to Africa. And the ending of the first issue, she's like, "This is gonna be fun." That's what I'm referencing. That whole part.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I don't have that written down, but yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like that, and it was like them having that whole conversation with Mark and Eve, and you can. I don't want to spoil it, but you can tell there's a little spark there, and you.
Oh, that's been there the whole series so far. The will they, won't they thing has been going on since they first met,
and it's definitely like it seems like Mark is definitely interested, but Eve is clearly interested in Mark.
Mm-hmm.
But she said like a really interesting line when talking about like Amber and just like people in general that aren't superheroes. The whole line of like they don't look up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that line. Like, I feel like I've heard that before, but maybe...
Yeah, because Eve says it earlier in the series.
Okay, she said, like, when they're, like, changing or whatever in high school, it's like, these people don't look up. And I don't know, like, that's... She's right. But that, like, speech, I was like, she seems kind of, like... I don't want to say, like, a fascist or whatever, but, like,
she's definitely not a fascist.
She's not a fascist, no. But, like...
It's not what that word means.
No, like kind of like these people are inferior. That's how I kind of
She
read it.
maybe
Like,
has a little bit of a Magneto complex.
yeah, let's not say fascist, but yeah, like a little Magneto, a
Well,
little.
Magneto wasn't a fascist either.
No, no, I'm saying I said not a fascist, but like a little bit of a Magneto complex. That's a good way to put it. Like, I was just like, oh, that's a little sinister. Like, I don't know.
I think that
It's not
I
how she meant it, but
yeah no. Well, I mean, I agree with you. That's definitely one way to interpret what she's saying. I think that this is just another instance where Eve is the thing in the comic that she sort of centers Mark in a lot of ways,
he's right. Like, yeah,
but
like,
she's also, whether Mark realizes it or not all of the time, Eve is really the thing that provides him with guidance. And it was sort of set up from the very beginning when they met because she had already been a superhero for a while. So she knew
yeah,
things that he didn't. She was kind of showing him the ropes on how to be a teenage superhero and, balance school. And it was a bit of a light mentorship when they first met. Um, and she's always kind of guiding Mark either directly or indirectly with some of the things that she says and the advice that she gives him. And I think this is a great example of that, where she says things in a way that helps Mark make sense of the world. He has a lot of light bulb moments that are a direct result of Eve. That's
yeah.
why Eve's one of my favorite characters.
Steve.
Doesn't hurt
Yeah,
that
I
she's
just
a
want.
redhead.
I just wanted that they don't look up line. It just really stuck with me.
Yeah.
She's right.
Also, that's a great segue into well, actually, you know what? Can we go back to the
Yeah,
Mahler twins and
yeah,
Robot's body? Because you find out later on the reason why he had the Mahler twins help him create a body to put his consciousness into, and the DNA that he uses is Rex explodes, and he ends up creating a teenage body that looks exactly like it is Rex, but he
yeah.
puts his own, basically makes a copy of himself through the Mahler twins cloning process. It's like an exact copy of his mind, his consciousness, whatever, and then he lets the gross little monster version of him die. Like he asks for death, he pulls off his mask, the air kills him, whatever. But the reason that Robot does this is that he's become enamored with Monster Girl,
Yeah, like
and
my
he
man's on that
chooses,
data.
yeah,
Star
he
Trek, he's on that data.
chooses Rex's body because he remembers when Monster Girl and Rex first met, she thought that Rex was hot. She made several comments about Rex's body,
Yeah,
so he very consciously chose that body to clone.
form. Yeah.
Um, and I won't say anything more about this, but there's that decision, and then there's a comment he makes later on after he shows the Guardians his body, and they all kind of come to terms with it, where Monster Girl agrees to like hang out with him, and he says something to the effect of "on to phase 2," or
Mm,
he has a plan
yeah.
here that he's
Yeah.
enacting, and there is something sinister that happens in these 2 volumes that we read, and it's not Eve, it's it's Robot. Rudy is his real name.
Yeah, Rudy. Yeah.
Um, this is some foreshadowing of things to come with Robot. Um, but we can
I
talk more
vaguely
about that.
remember that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's some good stuff too.
yeah. So back to the Africa visit with Amber and Eve. So Mark is called away suddenly
Yep.
to come back to his house. And when he flies back to his house, he leaves Amber with Eve and
Yeah.
asks Eve to fly Amber back. So Mark flies back home as fast as he can, and he finds his mom beat up, holding Oliver, and who is there but Angstrom Levy trying to get his revenge for what he thinks is something that Mark did to him, what is not the case. He did it to himself. Um, this is the first Angstrom Levy fight.
Is it
What are
the
your thoughts
last?
here? Not the last.
Uh
there's only one thing that I want to talk about with the Angstrom Levy fight. I'll let you do the rest. Well, I guess there's two things technically, but
I mean, it was super brutal. I don't remember Angstrom Levy being. I must have like not read the first issues very carefully the first time I read this because like I don't remember him being this brutal. I remember so Angstrom Levy pretty much is his motivation or what he's doing is opening up these different portals, and he's pretty much trying to tire Mark out and have him fight all these different. He goes to these different dimensions and is having him fight all these different things. And Angstrom Levy pretty much just wants to kind of deliver the killing blow or do some light damage because he knows head up, like head to head, he's not going to beat Mark. He is enhanced, so he's not just like a normal guy, but he knows like head up, they're not gonna.
Good plan.
That's not going to go well for him. No, it's a fantastic plan. Goes to a couple different dimensions. Does he go to Marvel 616?
That's what I want to talk about. So
okay,
and this is some of the genius of Robert Kirkman, man. So he does send Mark to 616. He actually sends him to a couple issues of Marvel Team Up that Robert Kirkman was also writing for Marvel at the time.
That's right.
And Mark spends more than a couple of panels worth of time in 616. He has a full-on crossover with Spider-Man where they fight Doc Ock. He's there for a while, like a day or two, before he gets knocked back through a portal. So all of the times that Angstrom Levy is sending Mark through portals of different dimensions, and it looks like he's only there for a short period of time, he's there for a lot longer than a panel or two. A lot of those dimension trips took some time.
So was Kirkman writing Marvel Team Up and Invincible like at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Because I remember like you have okay, because you have like that one hardcover that's like ridiculously hard and out of print, right? Because it has that story in it. I remember.
I just have the regular Marvel trades.
Whatever, there's regular trade of Marvel Team Up. Okay, because Invincible's in that in the Marvel printed work. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
genius, man, genius.
Hey, man, get your
like dude had a full-on crossover, like a 2 or 3 issue crossover in a different universe, and then popped right back into his own book. To the reader, if you didn't go and read those issues of Marvel Team Up, you have no idea how long that took and what happened. But like, dude, Mark did some serious work in all those different dimensions. We just never got to see it.
I saw Doc Ock. It was a quick trip, and I moved on. You know, that's what I got.
A little bit deeper than that, man. You gotta peel back the layers on some of this Kirkman stuff.
Yeah, he's deep. Oh man. So yeah, go ahead.
No.
I was just talking about the conclusion of the fight, but go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. All you. I've been doing a lot of talking.
So they were just like they get teleported. Ultimately, Mark, Angstrom's head like pops out. So like Mark grabs him, and pulls him into this dimension. I didn't catch it. I didn't write it down. But it's like this
so I think
dimension.
The portal opened and Mark didn't go through it.
Okay.
So then Angstrom stuck his head in to see where he was at, and that's when Mark pulled him in.
Yeah, it's like some sand. I didn't know if they had
it's like an abandoned, like there's just nothing left. Like
okay. Desolate world or whatever. So Mark grabs and pulls him into this dimension and proceeds to like just beat this guy and beat this guy and beat this guy, and he looks like Nolan after in the Guardians of when Nolan took care of the Guardians of the Globe and beat this guy, and he kills Angstrom Levy in this fight. You don't see it. You see Mark covered in blood. You don't see Angstrom, but he's like, Mark is just rattled, and he's like, I thought he was stronger than this. I thought he was stronger than this. And that was how one of the issues ended. That was how I think it was 33. That was how that issue ended. And I was like, whoa, I vaguely remembered that, but I was like, I don't remember this.
So I would say Mark looked more like Nolan when Nolan was beating Mark.
Yeah.
Not so much beating. This was more, and this is thematic within the comic. This is acting a little bit like your dad right now. Being a little bit like your dad, Mark. Got a few anger issues, Mark. That Viltrum DNA, Mark. Got to keep it under control.
Got a little bit of a
There's a
temper.
lesson in this for Mark, and this is not the last time that we'll have to talk about Mark's temper.
It was just, I just do not remember that Angstrom, that whole sequence, like the brutality,
Yep.
just kind of came out of nowhere for me. So
I think part of it's because we didn't have a lot of that for a while.
That's true.
It
Yeah,
was
the
like
whole
your standard
trade.
superhero hijinks type of fights for a
Yeah,
while, and then all of a sudden Kirk reminded us who he is.
yeah,
He's a dude that writes some pretty violent stuff, and Ryan Otley can draw it better than anybody.
I agree. I agree. Um,
You can't go breaking somebody's mom's arm.
yeah,
You can't beat up
it's
someone's
true.
mom. You expect to get beat to death if you do that.
What do you? What did the quote that Debbie said when I believe Mark gets back to her? Um, well, I know there's something you want to cover with that whole desert scene, but we can go back. But Mark ultimately, obviously, does end up getting back to her, and she says something along the lines of like, "I've lived through worse." Talk about how she got beat up a little bit and broke her arm. What do you think she was referencing there?
Watching Mark almost get beat to death by her husband, and then her husband abandoning her completely.
Okay. I wasn't thinking like physical trauma
Yeah.
with Omni Man, but like more just the mental scarring is like,
Yeah.
that's more damaging than the physical punishment,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think it's a
people.
pretty common thing for a parent to feel, that they would much rather experience physical pain themselves than watch something terrible happen to their children.
Yeah.
That watching that happen to Mark on
The
TV
global
basically,
stage,
yeah, like
cable TV on regular
definitely
TV.
worse than getting your arm broken by a villain.
Yeah.
Smacked around a little bit.
Yeah.
So how
All
Mark
right.
got back to Debbie? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because after Mark kills Angstrom in this desolate world, he has no way home, or so he thinks. The way he got there is incapacitated. He has a couple of ideas while he's sitting there covered in Angstrom's blood, thinking maybe he can go back and open a portal using Angstrom's body, or maybe he's just have to sit there and wait. Maybe he's going to die there. Who knows? And then a portal opens, and a very old, well, not very old, but an older version of the Guardians of the Globe come through it, including an older version of Eve, an older version of Rudy/Robot, and the rest of the Guardians. And they basically tell him what happened here. They don't really say it was Mark's fault or whether or not Mark was involved or not, because they don't want to say anything that will impact the future. But they basically said, we're from the future of, this universe, this timeline, whatever. And there's no saving this, but we can save you. You can still make a difference. And they open a portal for him to go back to his world. And before he leaves, that Eve stops him and basically tells him, dude, you need to square up with Eve. Tell her how you feel, one way or another, whether you love her or you don't. But she deserves to know, and she's waiting for you, and she has feelings for you. And then she kind of gets like slapped on the wrist by Robot for saying that because he's not supposed to. And I think the first few times I read this, I didn't really think about how big a deal that may have actually been. Maybe Mark wasn't supposed to ever have that conversation with Eve about how he feels, but that starts a domino effect.
Well,
in some way. It makes Mark start to think about Eve differently. And he starts to weigh his options. He goes to Art for help, the guy that makes his costume, made his dad's costumes, that makes all superhero costumes, basically. And we'll be talking about this until the end of the comic now, but we can talk more about that too soon. That was all I had for Volume 7. We can move on to Volume 8.
We probably should.
Okay, yeah, we're 24 minutes in, huh?
Yes.
Dude, we'll just have to shorten the news and what we're reading and what we're playing, because I like talking about Invincible.
Okay, I mean, it's fine.
I got my Invincible Ultimate Collection Volume 4 behind me. I got Invincible on the wall. I'm wearing an Invincible hoodie. I'm an insufferable super fan. So, first off, Volume 8, page 9 of Volume 8, the most iconic splash page, one of the most iconic splash pages from Invincible. If you Google Invincible comic, this image is one of the first results on Google. It's been my phone wallpaper. It's been my desktop wallpaper. It's been my laptop wallpaper, my work laptop. Love it. It might not be page 9 in the trade because I was reading it digitally.
No, it's not. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Who knows, man? The Kindle e-reader does what it wants. Who knows
It's
what
got a
page it
life of its
was?
own. It's got a life of its own. I was just looking at it, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's
We
okay.
all know.
That's
What you're
okay.
talking
Buy
about.
Invincible. Go buy Invincible and read it for yourself if you want to see it. If you watch us on YouTube, you can see it right now. Matt's holding it
No,
up. If you listen to us on an audio podcast platform, I don't know, go follow us on YouTube and watch it there too. I don't care.
yeah.
If you want to see it, this is going to be about 25 minutes and 44 seconds into the episode if you want to go right to it. So also in Volume 8, we get a lot of supporting cast expansion. You get a lot of Robot and Monster Girl. There's more stuff with the Guardians. You get some stuff with William. You just really this volume really starts to feel to me like we get Peter Parker level supporting cast treatment for Mark's supporting cast, and I really like that because Kirkman just writes really good characters.
Agreed.
I don't have a lot more notes on this, so I'm gonna kind of defer to you a little bit. I know we got a big moment at the end of the 3rd chapter of Volume 8. I don't know what issue number that is.
Gosh, I'm just looking. Okay.
But Mark does a lot of talking, a lot of soul searching. There's some weird stuff with Amber and some dude she meets on campus.
Yep.
Amber never cheats on Mark.
Nope.
But at one point, Mark goes to talk to Eve, and they end up kissing.
Yes.
Mark is still with Amber when that happens.
Yes.
And then that goes unresolved for some time.
Yes.
Right after that, we have to deal with the Sequid attack.
Love this. Are we going with Sequids or Sequids? I'm going with Sequids now. You turned me to what your side. You said Sequids.
No, I said Sequids.
Sequids?
Didn't I? Did I say Sequids? I don't remember, man. I call them Sequids now.
S-
Maybe you turned me. I don't remember.
You're as amorphous as they are. No, yeah, I mean, we can go into that part. I just really...
Well, Shapesmith was kind of your guy, and he kind of reveals himself.
Yeah. That... I like the scene of Robot and Monster Girl at the movie just as a complete one-off. They're trying to go to like a rated R movie, and the clerk is like showing him up and is like, you need a parent. And Robot shows he's intelligent, and there's like a guy wearing a Knicks jacket, and he goes over and is just like, the guy, the movie teller said the Knicks suck or whatever, and like the guy's like, give the kid whatever he wants. Like I was just reading in that New Yorker, that accent, but just showing like how smart Robot is, like to manipulate any situation. He keeps his cool, and you will find out later in some other issue, the future issues, Robot comes up big, and he keeps his cool under a pretty intense situation.
He does. He does. That Sequids fight.
I'll
be honest, I don't really love the Sequids.
You don't? I just love their character design. Like, I like their design. I think it's
a cool design. I don't know. Something about them just doesn't do it for me. I don't dislike it. It's just, out of all the cool stuff in Invincible, that's not even in the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. They're kind of like a
10.
Major threat, though. They can annihilate the universe.
Yeah,
like
they sure can.
They're kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention like Alan coming back into the picture. Alan the alien.
Oh yeah, that's true. And we learned about Thaddeus, the leader of the Coalition of Planets.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a Viltrum. Viltrumite.
Completely forgot about that. Yeah. Like, yeah. Alan is kind of like Bark, and I got some from these issues. I got some serious like Dragon Ball Z vibes. If you ever watched that, of, like,
no, I didn't.
The Saiyans. So the Saiyans are pretty much like they get the shit beat out of them, and as long as they survive, they get stronger. And Alan has like a similar power to like Mark, and like you push yourself, you know, you push yourself to the brink, you're going to become that much stronger. And it's revealed that like Alan has that similar, you know, power set, and is almost even stronger than them as a Viltrumite at this point. But yeah, Thaddeus being revealed as actually being a Viltrumite, completely forgot about that. So that was completely new to me. Yeah. And then my note was in that same issue when Alan comes back in the picture, you really don't hear much about Alan. It's just like he's alive and he's around. But I just put Mark flies to Africa, visits Eve, they kiss. The series has now started. That was my note that I put with
That's a good way to
explanation
put it.
points. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're on to like Sequid time or whatever with the invasion angle. Um,
I didn't take any notes on this because again, they're not
okay.
my favorite thing. It was I mean, it was a cool fight. Some cool stuff happened, but
Yeah.
not really something that I feel strongly about.
So it's pretty much like Russ Livingston, who was the NASA astronaut like trades ago that went uh to Mars because the Martians are like amorphous and they can't be taken over. When they left Russ Livingston there, a human, the Sequids could latch onto him, and he now can command the Sequid army and has consciousness to kind of like guide them. So they've kind of like taken over part of Mars, or they've taken over Mars, and they're heading to Earth now. Um, and Cecil they end up obviously seeing this massive ship, locating and seeing it's coming. So they dispatch a team to go out to space to pretty much intercept this, straight up kind of like Armageddon style. Now that I think about it, with
I never
Bruce
saw that
Willis.
movie.
Well, that's kind of the plan. It's instead of it being a
Okay.
rock, it's kind of a Martian ship.
Okay.
So it's like the main team, it's like Immortal, Eve, Mark ends up going,
It's pretty much
Robot
just the
ends up
ones that can't
going.
be taken over by a sequid.
Exactly. So they all end up going.
Except Robot is in his suit because he can't
He is in a
control the
suit.
robot with his brain from that far away. So he had to
Good
take a
call.
suit that he can fit inside to pilot like Iron Man.
And then
Well,
meanwhile,
Tony
so
Stark
that's
looking ass.
yeah, that's like that was generation one Tony Stark, that old armor. Like it was
Made that
bulky
shit
as
in a
hell.
cave.
Yeah, that Jensen armor, banging that steel, that Jensen armor. uh, so meanwhile, while that's going on, there's also like a ground team where the Lizard League, we love the Lizard League here. Even though they're kind of like Hydra or Cobra or something, I don't know.
Dude, the Lizard
They're
League base is exactly this. It is the Cobra base.
I was gonna say it looks very much like
They
the
even killed
Cobra.
that Serpentor lookalike when like their leader got out of jail.
Yeah,
Came back and shot that dude between the eyes.
was the dude who shot him? Was that the original leader? Was that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they killed a Serpentor looking guy, and they're going to take over like a nuclear silo. So there's like a team that's dispatched. The other people duplicate, Rexplode, Shrinking Ray, and maybe another guy
That's it. It was just those three.
those three. That
Those
was
are the only
it.
guardians that were left.
Left.
So they had to
Okay.
go. Britt shows up after the fight's over.
Brit. Okay. Yep. I thought that was so Brit. So that fight's pretty brutal, but like going back to the ship battle. Long story short, they're getting overwhelmed by Sequids. Um, Eve ends up putting up this projecting like bubble, kind of like Sue Storm style, and they're holding these Sequids back. And Robot is trying to make a device to because they're getting overwhelmed. So Robot's trying to make a device with his armor where he can get a hold of the Russ Livingston controlled by Sequid guy. That's kind of like a EMP pulse thing that will like disable all the Sequids. Eve at the end of one issue, like Eve just collapses because she can't hold it anymore. She's like, "Oh, I got it," and then it collapses in. So then the end of the issue, you're like, "Oh crap, what's going on?" So then I woke up the next morning, read the next issue, and pretty much Shapesmith, is that his name? Shapesmith. He ends up filling the Eve role because he pretty much pulls a Mr. Fantastic, wraps up Robot. They build this device. Immortal tries to take the device, but Mark's like, "You're too damn slow." He takes it. The EMP thing goes off. The Sequids are defeated. Russ Livingston is separated, and we go from there. On the ground team, uh, I don't know what that guy, the big Lizard League guy is, but he straight up kills every duplicate, like just brutal. breaking necks, ripping heads off, ripping body parts. And Duplicate's good as long as there's one of them, but he kills all of them. So Duplicate's off the board. And then the Cobra Commander looking guy
Wait, he
ends
also
up
ate Shrinking Ray.
he eats Shrinking Ray.
That dude's also dead.
He's dead. And the Cobra Commander guy ends up shooting gosh, I get Rex
Rex.
Splode in the head. After
Rex
like
also lost his left hand.
His arm. Yeah, lost his arm or hand or something. So,
that dude bit his hand off at the wrist.
So that Cobra, yeah. How did he? What did? Oh, Rex threw something in his.
He was holding on to one of those little explodey rods. He put it in the dude's mouth, and then he just bit it off. And that's how he killed that big dude, because it blew up his head.
Yeah. So that was pretty brutal. So I can't remember what happened to the Cobra Commander guy. I think Rex did something to him. It was kind of like a
Rex
double
killed
KO.
him.
Yeah, it was
or
like a
knocked
double
him out
KO.
or something. Fight was over. Britt showed up, and everyone was either dead or unconscious.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
can we go back to Shapesmith real quick?
Yes,
because like that dude sucks. Like everybody hates him. You kind of glossed over it. You're like, oh, I like that dude, but like the Sequid invasion is capable of happening because of him. He switched places with Russ Livingston on Mars because he was part of a rebel group within the Martian race that didn't like the fact that the Sequids were slaves of the Martians. So they switched places. He switched places with Russ so they could bond with him and like break free from slavery. And the first thing they did was enslave the Martian race.
Backfire.
And on top of that, the Martians hate him because of that. Once Cecil finds out that the Martian warship is on its way with a bunch of Sequids on board because of Shapesmith, Cecil hates him too. Everybody hates this guy.
He's just so gullible and likable, though. He's got the little palette up front.
He's
just a goof, man.
But he's also just a green Martian. He's just a Martian, man.
Yes.
He is. I'll give you. He is a much more likable version of John Jones, the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
I'll concede that. But boy, he kind of sucks. He's a very irresponsible person.
It's just almost caused the annihilation of two peoples and the enslavement of two people.
Just taking out two planets at one time.
Exactly.
Efficient.
He's very efficient.
Also, Russ, I think we should probably mention that Russ gets back to his apartment and then pukes up a Sequid. That reattaches to him.
We should have timed this to read it in October because that's very like an old Halloween ending. Like you're like, oh, Russ is back, and then like, no, he pukes up a Sequid, and it's his eyes or whatever, and they're here now. They're on our planet now, and that was the end. That was it.
So there's like, one more thing that I think can close out our discussion.
Yep.
And it's something that Mark brings up to Art when he's talking about Amber and Eve. Well, we have two things.
Okay. Well, I'll shut up unless you're going on. We didn't even talk about the whole Eve and Amber, like all that stuff.
We kind of did.
Not the kind of like conclusion at the end of this though.
Okay, well, let's talk about Eve and Amber first because I want to close out this discussion with the books. Okay.
So yeah, like there was just I really liked Kirkman very much like BKV and Saga. Like this is just good writing. Like Mark pretty much goes to Amber and is having the realization, like, you know, partially after he kissed Eve, I think he has some feelings for her, but he has a legitimate conversation with her about like, I don't think this is going to work. I'm a superhero. It's not fair for me to just pick up and run off, leave you here. I go to Dimension X and disappear for 6 months, and you're just sitting here like wondering what's happening to me or have no idea what's going on. Like, he's like, I love you, but he's just like, this is not fair to you, you know, like, and like they kind of can't relate because of the superhero nature. And like Amber was just like, that actually all makes sense except for the fact that like you kissed Eve, like he tells her you kissed Eve, like all that made sense. And like
she also said that's exactly what I was gonna say. She was gonna say the same thing to him.
They both
not just that it made sense, but she felt the same way.
Yeah, they both like met that conclusion, and I appreciated that. That of everything, I know we've had the whole like will they won't they thing going on, but like I appreciated that wasn't just like some dramatic thing for like dramatic effect. It was like This is just two people having a conversation,
Yeah.
and I thought that was cool. That was all.
Yeah. I guess we also got the wrap up of the DA Sinclair
Yeah, we didn't even mention
story.
him, but
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
yeah,
we don't have to get deep into that one, but long story short,
I like DA
William,
too, but
yeah,
like,
William breaks free of control. Or not William. What's his
well, you're
name?
not wrong. William does break free of
Yeah.
control, but it's Rick. I think it is Rick.
Oh yeah, Rick
It's Rick
Sheridan. Rick Sheridan.
because I was like Rick Grimes, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
Rick.
Rick breaks free of control. He's a Reaniman, and then he helps Mark beat up the other ones, and then Mark breaks D.A. Sinclair's jaw. Take it into custody. They fix Rick. I'm not super interested in that whole subplot. I think it went way too long.
It's super.
I never
long.
liked it. I never really liked it. And it's kind of weird.
Like,
Like, I
DA's
just didn't
working
get
for the
it.
government though.
He
DA
sure is.
is approached by a shadow agent. He's approached by Cecil to work for the government now. So,
Well, he doesn't have much of a choice.
he's locked up. I guess you're gonna do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But
So back to the conversation with Art.
okay,
Mark's talking to him, and while he's talking to Art about Eve and Amber, he also gets on the topic of his dad, and then
Yes.
he has an aha moment. He asks Art about the books that his dad used to write, because Nolan said to him when he was getting captured by the Viltrumites in the last volume, the last month's episode, he said, "Mark, read my books." And that's when Art goes, "Oh, he wrote some science fiction books that didn't do well before he started writing travel books. But if you want them, they're yours. He was your dad. I liked them. They're all yours." And then Mark realizes that those books are actually about things that can hurt a Viltrumite. His dad wrote down how to kill a Viltrumite, essentially. And there are some, we'll get more into this later, but there are some people, some objects, some things, some creatures that can hurt a Viltrumite, and that's going to come back in the comic at a later date.
A lot of this very, very important information is hidden in text pages. With that, we're ready to start our next episode about the X-Men, the current X-Men.
Kirkman did hit us with some prose. I skipped over those.
You did? I read them.
I've read them 3 times already, man. I didn't need to read them a 4th.
Got you.
Didn't need to. I know what they say.
I definitely thought of you when I saw prose. I was like, they got me at the prose, dude.
As soon as I forgot about them somehow, and the first one I saw, I was like, oh, this is Matt's gonna bring this up. He's gonna bring this up. I know it. So we're in a good place with Invincible right now. Mark is about to explore his feelings for Eve. We're deep into threading together the larger arc with the Viltrumites. We know now that there's a Viltrumite running the coalition of planets in Thaddeus. We know that Alan is as strong as a Viltrumite, or stronger potentially. Mark's got the keys to defeat in his hand. He just has to figure out what the hell it all means.
Yep.
And he's got a little brother.
A lot of Viltrum up in here. A lot of Viltrum.
Yes. Let's move it on.
It's time for the news. Because Dave doesn't really pay attention to this.
So I know we're going long. I don't have like a whole lot of news, but I assumed we were going to go, pretty long on this as well. So, Dave, did you see that there's a new Marvel book titled Uncanny Spider-Man?
Unfortunately, I did.
We could just leave it at that, but I think it's important for us to check in every once in a while on the House of Ideas and see how they're doing, and see that they've probably run out of ideas at this point. But I think it's very important for us to just highlight these things. We don't really need to speak on them. We just need to put them out in the ether. We'll leave it at that.
The only thing they got left is doing weird character mashups.
That's it.
That's who's going to be Carnage, who's going to be Venom. Who's going to be the Goblin, the Red Goblin, the Gold Goblin?
Go. The
What
Butcher,
the hell,
Baker, the
man? You
Candlestick
got the
Maker.
Uncanny Spider-Man. You got a million different Spider-Men running around. I just don't get it anymore.
They're bringing Spider-Man India back. I'm kind of excited for that
Bringing
one.
what?
Did you ever read Spider-Man India?
No.
That was good. That was actually good, but it's
Really?
a different creative team. Yeah, it was good. Sheridan made me read it. I was like, oh, this is good. I liked it. But yeah, different creative team. That's going to be a DOA too. Oh, man. My preferred gaming platform is in trouble.
What? I don't even know what your preferred platform is anymore because you flip-flop so often.
I'm back on Xbox this week.
Of course you are.
Have you seen anything about Joseph Staten leaving Xbox?
No.
So, do you know who Joseph Staten is?
No.
Okay, Joseph Staten.
Is that bad? Should I know who that is?
Probably not.
I feel like I probably should, but that's okay.
He was. This is 20 years ago at this point, but he was one of the major architects on Halo. Like he wrote all the lore, all like the Fall of Reach, those First Strike, those early Halo lore. He is infamous for they brought him back. Like he wasn't at 343. He was like up in a higher level position in Xbox, but they brought him back to fix Halo Infinite. He is the only reason Halo Infinite is not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but he's the only reason that game is even like workable. The story came together at all. Like there are articles saying like we brought Joseph Staten in so we could land the ship because like they didn't know what they were doing.
Yikes.
So he's leaving 343. And then earlier, like literally like an hour before this, another guy who was in a pretty early architect, not to Joseph Staten level, but his name's Frank O'Connor. He also left 343. Staten left to form he's over at Netflix. They're doing Netflix gaming, which I don't know what that is, but that's what the endeavor he's going over to. So like I don't know, man. I don't know. What can Netflix do with gaming? I have no idea.
Were they not paying attention when Google tried to launch the Stadia?
Yeah, like I don't know.
Flopped so hard.
I don't know, man. Maybe if they just do like a studio, I don't think they can compete. If they're like, we're going to do a partnership with Sony and be like a publisher or something, maybe. But I hope they're not going to try to like compete 1-to-1 with these platforms because they're going to get stomped out like real quick. But yeah, that was news topic number 2. Number 3, we're going to push to another week because I think, like me and Dave talked about, that can be a whole other topic. My last thing, earlier today, a clip dropped for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Forever, this Netflix special thing. I don't know if you know about.
I've seen some of this already.
Dude.
Looks good.
It's that old 90s kind of cheesy Power Rangers, but it was my boy Walter Jones and Rocky. Walter Jones and Steve Cardenas, who played Rocky, who was the second Red Ranger. They're like they teleport to the old juice bar and they are putting in some work on some putties. And my man Walter Jones is doing that hip hop keto from like, oh my gosh, I am so ready. Like it's like a couple days away now. Walter Jones has not played Zach since 1992, Dave. I am ready. I'm so ready for this movie. I don't care how cheesy it is. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love it. I don't care.
He's got to be what, 50 now?
Yeah, he's in good shape. I tweeted, I was like, Walter Jones never got it. I need to get it back. I need to get off the couch because he's like 50 and he looks the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my news. Small news this week.
I don't have news, but I do have an observation.
Yes.
I was reading the newest issue of Previews, making my comic order for June. Yep. Did you notice that Dark Horse Comics got booted out of the front section of Previews?
I don't even look at Dark Horse anymore.
Dude, Dark Horse is in like the regular A to Z section.
Oh no, they got the IDW treatment. Oh no.
But there's a new name in the front section now. I'm pretty sure Boom was up there.
Boom's been up there.
Have they?
They've been up
There
there.
was another new one. I think there was another new. Maybe
There has to be
Dynamite.
something else. Dynamite's been up there.
Okay.
Maybe Dark Horse just got cut.
Maybe Dark Horse just got cut.
I think that's big. Ooh, that's not good. That's
No.
not good at all.
No, it's not.
You know what's next? No preview images.
No
That's the
preview
next
images. No
Did you-
preview images.
Have you seen the IDW stock?
Oh yeah.
Because you were like a while.
Oh no,
ago,
not the
you were talking about-
stock. Not the stock.
Well, you were talking about like if it goes under $1, it's at
Yeah.
like 67 cents now.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, this is not.
They're about to
good.
get delisted.
Yeah, I don't know how it hasn't happened already. If you
Takes
said
a
like
while.
okay,
Like the
yeah,
FCC will, or the SEC, one of the two. I'm sure it's the SEC. They'll give the company a warning and say, hey, you need to get your stock price over $1, or we delist you. Then they have like a time period where they're allowed to try to get it back over $1 through funding or whatever they want to do.
Got
Stock
you.
buybacks, reverse splits, whatever.
Still curious
Sad times.
Still curious why the Southeastern Conference is running the stock market, but it is what it is.
It's the Securities Exchange Commission.
Roll Tide.
Okay. One other previews comment. 2 months in a row now, Valiant has solicited an issue of Exo Manowar. Exo Manowar number 4 solicited for June. Number 3 was solicited for May.
I might have to get on board. It's a budget publisher. I can afford their whole
Like
line.
maybe
It's a
this
budget
bi-monthly thing was just temporary while they get their house in order. Who knows? They still only solicited one comic book. They're not publishing multiple books right now at a time.
Phoenix will rise from the ashes, brothers.
Let's hope so. All right, well, that was it. Not really news for me, just observations based on past conversations that I felt didn't belong anywhere else in the episode but the news.
Appreciate it. It's all good, man. All good.
All right, let's keep it moving. So for reading and playing,
Apex Legends.
I've been putting in some time on Apex. Yes, it's true. The rumors are true. Had some really good nights in ranked last week. Some really good nights. A lot of RP. Gained a lot of RP. Had a lot of fun. This is actually the best ranked season that I've had in like a year. My KD is considerably higher than my lifetime KD in this game. Like I don't know what happened, but
you're getting it in.
Yeah, I'm putting in the work. I'm putting in the work. I do have something to discuss that I was reading, but I'll let you go first.
Okay. So I beat the campaign for Modern Warfare 2 finally.
Okay.
Really good. I enjoyed the last couple of missions were really solid. There's even some like not open world, but like open decision stuff you could do that was really cool. And I really like that like they've expanded the team. So like now there's kind of a team in Mexico and there's some new agents in Mexico now. Like, you know, you have like Soap and Captain Price and whatever, but like they're expanding the team. So I hope it keeps kind of going like multinational, kind of like Rainbow Six. So I did like that. But after I beat that, I started up a game that we've talked about, and it has me wanting to switch my preferred platform. So I started this little ditty, and I must say I'm not very far. I'm like maybe 2 hours into the game.
Finally.
Last of Us Part 2.
Finally.
Dude. This game's incredible already.
Right?
It is. So this is, when did this come out? 2018?
2018 or 2019, maybe?
2018. Like, graphics are insane. The characters are just, Ellie's awesome. Like, just, Ellie's just a great character. I'm not, like, really, really far. I'm just, like, kind of in the, you're in, like, the expedition phase with Dina. Like, you're exploring the different stuff. That's kind of where I'm at right
Seattle?
now. Yeah, I believe, yeah, you're in Seattle. I met Abby. Just like very quickly met Abby. So my question is, can you like play this game like primarily stealth if you want? Because dude, I'm love like that. I was just like using this super hearing or whatever and just sneaking around and getting people and like, I mean, I
I do
love those
mostly
Assassin's.
stealth in these games.
Yeah, like I love those Assassin's Creed games, but they're not really stealthy. Like it's more so now. Just you can still play stealth in those games, but like this seemed like true stealth to me, and I just
It
had so much
is.
fun grabbing the clickers and stuff, pulling them back and like stabbing them up. Super violent. I'm going to be working my way through this game. I'm really much like God of War, like when Joel picks up the guitar and is talking to Ellie, and you can strum the chord on like the Dual Shock, like when Kratos was chopping down a tree. I was like, oh, dude, I'm in. Like it's so stupid, but I love it. It's just really, really good stuff. So
Great game. Phenomenal game. Game of the
the
decade, potentially,
game of
for
the
me.
decade.
I mean,
So
there's not a single game that I've played that has made me cry so many times in one playthrough.
then
That
Last
game
of
just
Us.
gets you like over and over and over. Don't give
See it?
anything away because I know there are people that listen to the podcast that watch
No,
the
I'm
show
not.
that haven't played the games.
No,
But
I'm not giving anything away. That's something you
I
gotta
know you're not
experience
so
yourself.
far. I wanted to make sure, make sure it's no spoiler talk for Last of Us because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody
Nope.
because they got to wait until 2025 to see season 2 of the show.
No, I'm just gonna be like, Dave, Last of Us, I'm halfway through. Dave, I cried. I'm at 80% through. I'm not really gonna talk about it because I do think I won't even talk about the first game. I won't even talk about the first 15 minutes of the first game because I just think that's how good
Because
it
you don't
is.
remember it. Because I don't.
No. The first 15 minutes of Last of Us 1, you don't remember that? I
I mean, I
remember
like
that.
vaguely. I remember it. It's been a
You
long time
remember
since
the
I played
big
it.
you remember the big event that happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Stuff.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
this. Well, yeah. Well, I only remember that because I just watched the show.
Yeah.
The show
I
is
remember
like
that.
exactly the same as the game.
Yeah. I'll remember that for the rest of my life, probably, because I
Yeah.
cried like a little baby.
Yeah.
My last thing that I'm playing, what I'm doing, I'm actually playing around with mycomicshop.com because I think I'm moving a lot to mail order. I'm just done, man. I can't keep
Go,
up anymore.
dude.
I'm still gonna have my pity pull, but the majority of it's going online.
You know what else happened last week?
What's up?
One of my buddies he's actually from Erie, but he lives in San Antonio now. I just got him on my comic shop. He just switched to mail order because his LCS is just a shit show. He just hates it. They're just so awful. It's LCS time. It's LCS time to say goodbye. Move to mail order, man. It's the best option.
I had to talk our buddy Sheridan off the ledge because he's like really particular. Like I'm pretty particular. I'm not like that, but he's really particular about Spider-Man. I get it. He has like a crazy collection. And he's just like rationalizing. He's just like, dude, I don't know. I'm like, dude, I was like, your stuff's going to come in better shape than what it comes in now. And you get to pick all your 50 million variant covers that you want, and you get them at a ridiculously cheap price. Like, you absolutely should go mail order.
Dude, even if you get 35% off or 30% off, even with paying for twice a month shipping, it ends up netting out to less money than the 10% you get off from your LCS from having a pull list.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was like, dude. Honestly, like
Doesn't
you don't read
sense.
you're like me, like anymore. I have so much stuff to read. I was like, you do like monthly shipping, like it doesn't. You're not hosting a podcast or doing anything. Like you're not doing live updates. You don't need this stuff immediately. And I think I talked him off. He might be going with the other service that you love, but.
Why?
No one has been. I might go with him too. You've been wrong. You've been the only person who's ever been wrong by them.
No, I'm not. Go read their reviews. I know I'm not. Plenty of people. 2019, 2020. Downhill.
I just wish my comic shop's layout was a little bit better. It's a little archaic. It's not Denver. What's the Denver site?
Mile High Comics.
The MS-DOS program.
I mean, you could do Midtown Comics too in New York. They do mail order too.
Are they cheap? Are they?
No one gives a discount like DCBS or my comic shop.
I had my comic shop. I'm fine.
But here's
with
the thing with my comic shop.
There.
Well, you can tell Sheridan this if he doesn't listen to the podcast. My comic shop at no extra charge ships all your books bagged and boarded. DCBS doesn't do that.
I do need to tell him that.
Everything comes bagged and boarded. I don't buy bags of boards anymore. I don't have to. All my stuff comes that way. And I get 30% off.
You know, I want that link piggyback shipping though. When there's a new book you just want to throw in that order, you can do that on my comic shop. Have you ever done that? Yeah. If you miss an issue or
I've
something.
I've done it. I've added some stuff to like upcoming shipments, but they were back issues, not issues I
Yeah.
missed.
But you can if you ever
Yeah.
wanted to. That's the. I need to tell him about the bag and boarding thing though, because he would probably appreciate that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. But yeah, that was it, man. That's all
All
I
right.
did.
I mean, I figured your reading would be pretty light since we had to read for
Yeah.
Invincible, and my
I
reading was
was
pretty
gonna-
light too. However, I started reading something that I think you will not expect. It's not Superman. I think that stuff still sucks. But back in the day, Dark Horse Comics used to have a few licenses. They had Predator. They had Aliens. And they had the Terminator. And I started reading the Dark Horse Terminator Omnibus Volume 1 last week.
Yes, I love it.
Dude, these comics are, I forgot how good these were. And good's a relative term. But man, they're super violent. They're grimy, and
Yes.
they're definitely from a specific period of time in the world, because the first issue, it takes place after the first Terminator movie. It starts out with a team of resistance fighters breaking into a Skynet base where they know there's a working time machine, and they're trying to send themselves back for something, we don't know what. And there's like a non-soldier with them who used to work like security detail or something. I don't know, but he's like an overweight guy, and they keep referring to him as Fatso and Fats all the time. They're just so disrespectful.
Send me the link, please, to the book.
And then they leave this dude behind, and he's supposed to blow up the time machine after they go
He ain't doing
through,
it.
so the Terminators can't follow them. But before they can get the time machine up and running, Skynet detects them in the base, and a scout Terminator awakens 3 T-800s.
Yeah.
And these 3 T-800s and the scout Terminator get back to the time machine before Fatso can destroy it or whatever. And dude, they beat the shit out of this guy, like to try to find out where the humans are going and why. But he's already done so much damage. He didn't fully destroy the time machine, but he started to, that all they can do is they can only go to the last date and time that was put into the time machine. So they have to go right to where those humans went anyway.
Yeah.
So like they follow them through, but they're way behind. So they're hunting these human resistance fighters that are in the past in Los Angeles. But they bring this dude with them, the scout guy. I forget his lieutenant something. They just call him Fatso. But they bring him with him because they wanted to bring weapons. So they cut this dude's stomach open and shoved a gun inside, and then like cauterized the wound with like fire or something hot, and brought him through just to rip this gun out of his stomach and kill him. Then like they're trying to find clothes. There's two male and one female T-800. So the female T-800 like hits on some dude to try to get him to follow him into an alley. And they just murk this guy because he's a bigger dude, and they needed clothes for the biggest T-800 that's with them because that dude was still naked because they couldn't find clothes that fit him.
Digital
It's
or
just
paper?
wild stuff, man.
Where are you reading this at?
I bought it during a Comixology sale long ago.
Yes.
I got that, and I got the Predator Omnibus.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm having a good time going back to the. I'm pretty sure these are 80s comics. I don't remember the exact dates that Dark Horse had the license, but it's good times, man. Good times.
That's awesome. Back to the bins. The digital bin.
That's right. That's right. I still can't archive everything in my library, but I still went back and
You're having fun though. Don't worry about it.
I will
Still
never
can't find anything, but
Yeah, I'll never miss an opportunity to take a jab at Comixology, that's for sure.
I don't blame you.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this thing up. I'm not going to give the long-winded, please check us out and follow us and whatever, although I do wish you would. Or share the podcast with a friend.
You just did.
Yeah, but I'm not going to...
long-winded.
I don't have anything clever to say. I'm not going to go deep into detail in it. Our Twitter handles are in the description of this audio or video episode. Follow us there. We'll follow you back. Matt tweets way more than I do, so probably follow him first. But yeah, we'll be back next week with a topic that is yet to be determined, and then we're gonna come back to that X-Men conversation soon. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. It'll happen soon. Just be patient with us. But we'll see you in 7 days. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Take care of yourselves.
Peace.